Welcome to Just a Dude podcast, where we break down the biggest news stories in the U.S. today. I'm your host, Nathan, and in this episode, we're diving into some of the most talked about headlines from this last week. From a last-minute government shutdown crisis to massive investments in U.S. tech, it's been an eventful week. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get into it. Let's kick things off with a big one. There was a real chance for government shutdown at the end of December, but it was averted at the last minute. So here's how it all went down. Congress had failed to agree on a long-term budget extension. As the deadline for funding approached, the pressure was on. Initially, there was talk of a bipartisan bill to keep things running until March of 2024, but conservative figures, including former President Donald Trump, weren't on board with it. Why? Well, it didn't include an extension of the debt ceiling, which is a big deal when it comes to managing the nation's finances. Additionally, there seemed to be a lot of fluff and a lot of money going to things that really we shouldn't be spending things on, which was another reason the bill didn't pass. On December 21st, though, the situation hit a peak, and the government actually shut down at midnight. But just a few hours later, lawmakers scrambled and Congress passed a short-term funding extension. President Joe Biden signed it into law, which kept things running until the new year. While the immediate crisis was averted, this episode revealed how fragile the things are when it comes to the government funding. The political drama in Washington continues, and it's clear that these types of showdowns are becoming more frequent. The big takeaway here is that the shutdown was averted, but exposed the ongoing tensions between different factions of Congress. As we move into 2025, expect to see more debates around the budget, the debt ceiling, and of course, the looming threat of another shutdown. Next, we're talking about a historic move by President Joe Biden. On December 23rd, he commuted the sentences of 37 federal death row inmates. This is significant because it marks a real shift in the U.S. approach to the death penalty. Now these inmates won't face execution. Instead, they'll serve life sentences without the possibility of parole. It's important to note, however, that a few high-profile inmates, including Dylan Roof and Robert Bowers, were excluded from this decision due to the severity of their crimes, like mass murder and terrorism. This move is part of Biden's broader stance on criminal justice reform, particularly his opposition to the death penalty. The decision signals a growing awareness of the flaws in the criminal justice system, with calls for a more rehabilitative approach to sentencing. Critics of the death penalty argue that it's not just morally wrong, but also a costly and inefficient system that disproportionately affects marginalized communities. In the long run, this could have a ripple effect across the nation as other states and federal bodies reconsider the use of capital punishment. As more states move away from the death penalty, the decision could help accelerate the shift towards abolishing it altogether. It's a bold step, and it'll be interesting to see how the public and lawmakers react. The big thing that was left out, though, is the impact that was on the families of those that were victims. Those families now will have to live with that person who committed that crime being alive for the rest of their known lives as well. And some people argue that this just isn't a great thing for those victims. Now, let's shift gears a bit. We've got a huge announcement from the world of tech and investment. Softbank, the massive Japanese conglomerate, announced a $100 billion investment into the U.S. economy on December 16th. The company plans to funnel this money primarily to technology sectors like artificial intelligence and robotics. The goal? To create 100,000 new jobs by 2029, with a focus on advancing the U.S.'s leadership in these high-tech industries. Softbank's decision is a clear sign that the U.S. remains the global hub for cutting-edge technological advancements. With so much competition between countries to dominate AI and other emerging fields, this investment is a major boost for the U.S. economy. It's not just about financial gains. This is also about positioning the U.S. as the leader in the tech space for years to come. However, there's deeper implications here. As tech companies push to develop the next big thing, there's the risk of creating even greater economic divides. As these sectors grow, it's crucial that policymakers address potential issues like job displacement, income equality, and the ethical implications of advanced technology. It's a conversation we need to have as we embrace this new wave of innovation. All right, moving on to a more serious story. On December 18th of 2024, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirmed the first severe human case of H5N1 bird flu in the United States. The person who contracted this virus was reportedly exposed to a backyard flock, and health officials are still investigating how the virus made the jump to the humans. While bird flu is primarily an avian disease, its potential to mutate and affect humans is a concern for public health experts. This case is being closely monitored because of the risks associated with the new strains of viruses. While human-to-human transmission of H5N1 is still rare, health experts are keeping an eye on how this case develops. If the virus begins spreading among people, it could trigger a global health crisis similar to the COVID-19 pandemic. But for now, the CDC is reassuring the public that the threat remains low and that proper precautions can limit the spread. The real takeaway here is the continued need for vigilance. The pandemic of 2020 taught us just how interconnected the world is and how quickly diseases can spread. Public health experts are urging people to be cautious around poultry and to follow the guidance of health authorities to prevent further infections. On December 24th, American Airlines made headlines when they were forced to ground all U.S. flights for several hours due to a technical issue. The airline announced that a glitch in its system caused massive delays and cancellations across the country. Thousands of passengers were affected, many of whom were left stranded at airports during the busy holiday season. The airline worked quickly to resolve the issue, but the disruption served as a reminder of how fragile the aviation system can be when it comes to handling massive numbers of passengers. This issue wasn't just about inconvenience. It also highlighted some of the challenges airlines face as they rely more on technology to manage their operations. A single technical glitch can cause chaos in an already complex system. As the aviation industry continues to recover from pandemic-related setbacks, these types of disruptions can have a far-reaching impact on travel plans and the overall economy. It's also worth mentioning that the airline industry is facing mounting pressure to improve customer service. From delayed flights to lost luggage, travelers have been vocal about their frustrations with airlines for years. American Airlines Outage is just the latest in a string of issues, and it raises questions about the sustainability of current systems and the need for better infrastructure in the air travel industry. Now let's talk about the stock market. On December 27th, U.S. stock futures saw a slight decline, signaling a potential challenge for investors heading into the new year. While major indexes like the Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ are still on track for solid annual gains, there are growing concerns about inflation, rising interest rates, and economic uncertainty. The Treasury yields, which are a key indicator of economic health, rose above 4.6% for the first time since May, signaling concerns over the Federal Reserve's strategy to control inflation. The stock market is always a roller coaster, and the recent dip is a reminder that volatility is a constant factor. While the market has been strong overall, the road ahead could be bumpy. Investors are trying to figure out what the next year will look like in terms of growth and stability. The government shutdown debacle also didn't help investor confidence, as political turmoil can create an unstable economic environment. In the grand scheme of things, the economy is still a fragile place. Inflation may be under control for now, but the global economic landscape remains uncertain. As we head into 2025, it's going to be crucial to keep an eye on the market trends and policy changes that could affect the stock market and everyday life. With 2024 winding down, it's that time of year again. New Year's resolution season. We all know the drill. Make promises to ourselves about what we want to accomplish, whether it's hitting the gym, learning something new, or just making a positive change in our lives. But why do we make these resolutions, and why do so many of us struggle to keep them? Let's talk about the psychology behind New Year's resolutions, how they've evolved over time, and how to make them stick. The history of the New Year's resolutions. The tradition of making New Year's resolutions dates back thousands of years, and it's rooted in ancient history. The earliest known New Year's resolutions were made by the Babylonians around 4,000 years ago. They celebrated the new year during the spring equinox around April and made promises to their gods to return borrowed items or pay off debts. In return for their good intentions, they believed the gods would grant them favor in the coming year. This ritual was one of the first recorded instances of people looking to the new year as an opportunity to improve their lives and seek a fresh start. Over time, the tradition of making New Year's resolutions spread across different cultures. The ancient Romans also celebrated the new year with resolutions to honor Janus, the two-faced god of transitions, who could look both backward into the past and forward into the future. Romans would pledge to make changes to their behavior or practices as a way of ensuring the god's favor in the upcoming year. By the 17th century, making resolutions for self-improvement became a common practice in the Western world, particularly among Puritans, who used the new year as a time for personal reflection and moral accountability. Let's fast forward to today, and New Year's resolutions have become a global tradition, albeit with a modern twist. While many still hold on to the spirit of self-improvement, the resolutions we make now are more varied than ever, ranging from health and fitness goals to career ambitions and even personal development. The shift from religious or spiritual promises to more secular resolutions reflect broader societal changes. What hasn't changed, though, is the powerful desire to reset, reflect, and work toward bettering ourselves as we enter a new year. The psychology of resolutions. New Year's resolutions often stem from a deep desire for self-improvement. After a year of challenges, we feel motivated to start fresh and set new goals by ourselves, or for ourselves. But the truth is, the idea of a new year, new me is more than just a catchy slogan. It's a way for us to reset mentally and emotionally. However, setting big, vague goals can lead to frustration when we don't see immediate results. Whether it's getting healthier, learning a new skill, or achieving work-life balance, it's easy to become overwhelmed if the goals aren't specific or achievable. Experts recommend breaking down your resolution into smaller, more manageable steps and celebrating the small wins along the way. So how do we make resolutions work? How can we make them stick? First, start with realistic and attainable goals. Instead of saying, I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year, try setting a goal like, I'm going to exercise 3 times a week. Also, keep track of your progress, whether through a journal or an app, to remind yourself of how far you've come. And remember, it's okay to adjust your goals as the year goes on. Life happens, and the key to success is not perfection, but perseverance. New Year's resolutions aren't about turning into someone else. They're about making small improvements that help you become the best version of yourself. Let's make 2025 the year we don't just talk about change, but we actually make action. On December 24, 2024, President Joe Biden signed into law a bill making the bald eagle the official national bird of the United States. While the bald eagle has long been a symbol of America, this formal designation solidifies its place in U.S. history and culture. The bald eagle has been synonymous with freedom, power, and independence since its adoption as a national emblem in 1782. Now with this new bill, it will be given the title of national bird as well, reflecting its cultural and symbolic importance to the American people. The timing of this legislation couldn't be more fitting. The bald eagle's resurgence in the wild over the past few decades mirrors the country's ongoing journey of renewal and resilience. After facing near extinction due to hunting and environmental factors, the bald eagle population has rebounded thanks to conservation efforts, most notably the banning of DDT in the 1970s and the species protection under the Endangered Species Act. Now as the national bird, the bald eagle stands as a living reminder of the country's ability to overcome challenges and flourish despite adversity. The law has been met with wide approval, with many seeing it as a unifying gesture. While the eagle has always been a symbol of American pride, this formal designation serves to remind the country of the natural beauty and strength that is intrinsic to its identity. Whether you're from the East Coast, the West Coast, or anywhere in between, the bald eagle represents not only the majesty of the American wilderness, but also the enduring spirit of its people. It's a powerful way to honor the past, acknowledge the present, and look forward to the future. In another high-stakes story, the U.S. military successfully evacuated an American citizen, Travis Timmerman, from Syria after he was reporting missing on December 13th of 2024. Timmerman had been traveling in Syria when he disappeared, raising immediate concerns about his safety amid the ongoing conflict in the region. His family had been frantically seeking information about his whereabouts, and the U.S. government was working behind the scenes to secure his release. His evacuation marks a rare but crucial moment of success in the ongoing challenges ensuring the safety of American citizens abroad, especially in conflict zones like Syria. The operation to rescue Timmerman was not without its challenges. Syria remains a highly volatile region with complex geopolitics, including the presence of various militant groups and foreign powers. The U.S. military's efforts were complicated by the fragmented nature of control over the country, with certain regions being under the control of hostile groups. Despite these obstacles, American forces were able to execute a well-coordinated mission, ensuring Timmerman's safe return to U.S. soil. This operation underscores the growing role of military and intelligence agencies in protecting American citizens, even in the most dangerous corners of the world. For the Timmerman family, the relief of knowing their loved one was safely brought home was palpable. It highlights the intense pressure and emotional toll faced by families when a loved one is caught in a foreign conflict, and it underscores the responsibility of the U.S. government to ensure the safety of its citizens abroad. While this story has a happy ending, it also serves as a reminder of the continuing risks faced by Americans in countries embroiled by conflict and the complex work of securing their safety. With significant financial and legal implications, consulting giant McKinsey and Company agreed to pay $650 million and enter a deferred prosecution agreement with the Department of Justice to settle criminal charges related to its role in advising Purdue Pharma on how to increase OxyContin sales. This settlement is the result of a lengthy investigation into McKinsey's involvement in the opioid crisis, where the company's advice helped Purdue Pharma aggressively market the painkillers despite the growing concerns over its addictive properties. The $650 million settlement is seen as a direct acknowledgement of the consulting firm's role in fueling the opioid epidemic that has claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans. This settlement comes on the heels of a broader reckoning for the corporations involved in the opioid crisis. Purdue Pharma, which has already faced billions in penalties, filed for bankruptcy in 2019 amid lawsuits from states and municipalities. McKinsey's role in the crisis, however, has sparked intense scrutiny as the company's consulting work reportedly focused on increasing sales through strategies that downplayed the risks of addiction. The settlement also includes provisions for McKinsey to cooperate with the ongoing investigation and provide documents related to its work with Purdue. The financial consequences for McKinsey, while significant, are a small fraction of the profits the company generated from its involvement in the opioid market. However, this settlement highlights a shift in how the U.S. government is holding companies accountable for their part in the public health concern. As more settlements and lawsuits unfold, the financial and reputational damage of companies like McKinsey may serve as a deterrent for other firms, signaling that there will be consequences for putting profits above people's lives. This case also brings further attention to the opioid epidemic, which continues to affect communities across the country, and raises questions about corporate responsibility and ethics in consulting and healthcare. Well, that wraps up today's episode of Just a Dude Podcast, Just a Dude in the News. We've covered a lot of ground, from political showdowns to technical investments and public health concerns. As always, we'll be keeping an eye on these stories as they develop and bring you the latest updates every week. I want to thank you for tuning in, and be sure to check back for our next episode. As always, stay curious, ask questions, and I'm Nathan. I'll see you next time.